Thanks for tuning in to the Disembodied Screams podcast. Those returning, thank you. Those new to this podcast, welcome. Now let's get started. In case you were digging the movie stuff and all of a sudden it just went away, it went away for a reason. I want to get more into metal on this podcast, and I want to dive into heavy metal. I'm going to dive into heavy metal artists, celebrate the metal world, the vast metal world. And I just want to streamline the podcast with that. Look at some horror elements in metal, look at the metal artists in metal, and just things of that nature. And I just don't want to do movies. I get overwhelmed by movies, and because there's just so many freaking movies. I guess there's a lot of albums too, but albums feel easier to cover than movies to me. It doesn't stress me as much as movies do. So in keeping with streamlining things in the podcast world, it's probably best to have a streamlined. You don't do 5 or 6 genres in a podcast because this day and age there's too many podcasts, too many YouTube channels, too much of everything. So I thought I'd just streamline this and get into metal. I've been enjoying working on my Song Lines and Tan Lines podcast, which is a Jimmy Buffett-based podcast. It dives into that world and branches off from that into other artists similar to that. But I want to get into my love of metal too. If I'm not chilling to Buffett, I'm listening to some good heavy metal. And I thought this week we'd get back into King Diamond, Abigail II. I did Abigail recently, so I thought I'd finish up with the sequel. So let's get into it. Personnel for this one. I got King Diamond on vocals and keyboards, Andy LaRocque on guitars and keyboards, Mike Weed on guitars, Hal Patino, bass, Matt Thompson on drums, Cole Marshall, additional keyboard strings and harpsichord, and Alyssa Beisenberger, voice of Little One. So there you go. If you're on Spotify, you can see it on the screen. This may eventually go to YouTube. I don't know. If you're on YouTube, you'll see it there too as well. I'm getting a little over YouTube. I'm tired of dealing with all their nonsense. They're letting this AI machine run loose underneath things. I think it's killing everything on there. If it's not AI, it's something else getting it these days. So, and this kind of metal that I want to get into, it's not really YouTube friendly, like Cannibal Corpse and stuff. I mean, that stuff's brutal. All right, let's get into some songs from this album. Spare This Life, The Storm, Mansion in Sorrow, Miriam, Little One, Slippery Stairs, The Crypt, Broken Glass, More Than Pain, The Wheelchair Spirits, Mommy, and Sorry Dear. Those are the songs. So here we go. So what I do on this podcast is I kind of dive into the horror and dive into the album and stuff. So let's get into the horror part of this album. And I like to rate these songs, the cover, the title, that sort of stuff. So looking at those songs on a scale of 1 to 6, 1 being Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, 6 being Freddy's Nightmares, the song titles on this album are a straight up 5. I wrote 5. Okay, this is what I wrote. Song titles, I can't read my words this morning. Song titles don't evoke much dread, but the songs themselves are filled with nightmare fuel. So I'm giving them a lot of bonus points for that. I try to look at the song titles and see if they evoke some form of dread. These don't, but the songs themselves do. So I'm like, okay, that's a 5 just for that alone. I'll kind of go off I'll expand the rules a little bit on that one, let's say. Song title Deep Dive is what I go into next after I do the songs. And The Crypt is the song title Deep Dive on this one. It goes like this. The moon is outside, but it can't get in, almost dead from its nightly sin. Jonathan is deep asleep, a perfect time to visit the keep. Down the hallway to the lair, down the slippery stairs. Abigail is in the crypt, a lantern in her hand, the secret of the crypt. A coffin made for a child, wondering who is inside. Oh, Abigail, off comes the lid, the smell of sick. Mummified infant on its side, a name was cut deep in the lid with a knife, and it said, Abigail. A silvery necklace was around the mummy's neck. It had wings and was sharpened around the edge. What are you doing in here? Henry came in unseen. Abigail pulled on the necklace, and the little mummy's head was separated clean from its tiny neck. Dramatic pause as I get some water. Those who can see it can see that. Those who can't can hear it. Then up into his throat, twisting and turning. Ah, she couldn't stop. Brandon Henry was going down in a pool of blood. He was on the ground. There's an eerie glow in the crypt down below. Mummified infant on its side. Gotta go, gotta run. I'll be back for you, little one. In the crypt, Abigail's twin is searching for a home. Abigail's twin is searching for her mom. But mommy's in the floor and it's made of stone. Her mommy's in the floor and she doesn't know. Oh, she doesn't know. She doesn't know. Will she ever know? I don't think so. All right, moving on from that to the album title. And on the last Abigail, I gave it a 4. I'm going to give this one a 4 as well. My notes say I gave the first Abigail that number, so no reason to change it this time. Something about that name, as beautiful as it is, and if you're named Abigail, it is a truly beautiful name. But there's just something about the name Abigail, like Damien, that just throws my mind back to ancient things, and occasionally vampire things, and occasionally dead things. So that's why I gave that a 4. Album cover, it's a 6, folks. I mean, this album cover's got this creepy this girl standing in front of a creepy gate, in front of a big, dark, creepy house with lightning in the sky, and there's purples and there's blacks. There's this like little demonic-looking kid with a lantern at her feet. I mean, this album is just straight nightmare fuel, man. It's not the album you want to see before you go to bed at night. Let's say that much. So that's a straight up 6. So at this point in time, I add up the songs, the title, the cover, and on a scale of 1 to 6, 1, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, 6, Freddy's Nightmares. How horrific is this album? This album is a 5. I mean, it's a straight up 5. It is heading towards 6. But it's King Diamond. Is that any shock? It really should not be any shock. If you're like, what, a 5 for King Diamond? Then go somewhere else, because King Diamond is if you look up horror and horror vibes in metal music, King Diamond is one of the kings, literally, up there with the Rob Zombies and the Alice Coopers and stuff, who really encapsulate horror into their music and their genres and their styles. Even Merciful Fate had a lot of horror stuff. I'd love to cover some Merciful Fate on the pod too. Do I feel up to reading album information? It's not too long. Let's get into it. One more sip of water, and I will do it. Album information goes like this. 25 years after the release of Abigail, one of the most acclaimed conceptual albums in the history of heavy metal, King Diamond revisited their most famous protagonist for a sequel, Abigail II, The Revenge. Far from being overwhelmed by the original album's looming reputation, the band appeared completely re-energized by the return to their classic tale. Abigail II might be the group's most explosive work since their 80s heyday, as proven by the onslaught of marauding songs that start the album from The Storm to Slippery Stairs. As usual, leader King Diamond isn't concerned with writing simple riffs as much as crafting entire environments. There's a lot of creepiness in this album. Might be more creepiness in this album at times than some of the original Abigail does, because it has like spoken parts and stuff. Kids upstairs and cats, so if you hear a little something, that's what you just heard. Goes on to say there are moments of atmospheric uncertainty and moments of climatic tumults. I can't say that word. T-U-M-U-L-T. But as a whole, the album is remarkably unified, with each song connected to those surrounding it. The big payoff comes in More Than Pain, in which Abigail enacts revenge on her evil father by putting glass in his food and setting him on fire while he chokes it. Jeez Louise, man, that's making sure somebody's gone. You're like, if you're not just choking on glass, you're going to burn too. So let's make sure you're officially gone. And its little blurb closes with, as the band bring the music to a boil, as father comes to a boil as he's burning in that chair, leader King Diamond acts out all the roles with wicked gusto. So there you go. That's the album information. This is the close of the episode. Noise is going on upstairs. What are my kids doing? It sounds like they're bowling upstairs. All right, let me drop anchor here and close out the episode. If you like what you hear, don't forget to tap the follow button if you haven't already. And if you do enjoy what I do, don't forget to rate and review this podcast. It all helps to keep the show growing and showing and reaching more listeners. Take care. Have a good one. Thanks for listening. Up next is Terracite from one of my favorite new bands, Cattle Decapitation. Be good.